is something that I want to talk about. We just went through March Madness, and the whole time I was growing up, March Madness just meant that there was a tournament between college teams, and you had your favorite team, or you would pick a team for the tournament, and you'd watch it, and it was fun, it was innocent, and you could say funny things to your buddies when their team lost, and that was the end of it. But things have changed dramatically over the past few decades. Now, betting has been a thing for who knows how long, but it has exploded recently. I want to begin this lesson titled "Don't Bet on It" in 1 Peter 1. You want to open up your Bibles. In 1 Peter chapter 1, beginning there in verse 13. Peter writes, "Therefore, gird up the loins of your mind, be sober, and rest your hope fully upon the grace that is to be brought to you at the revelation of Jesus Christ. As obedient children, not conforming yourselves to the former lusts, as in your ignorance, but as he who called you is holy, you also be holy in all conduct, because it is written, be holy, for I am holy. And if you call on the Father, who without partiality judges according to each one's work, conduct yourselves throughout the time of your stay here in fear, knowing that you were not redeemed with corruptible things like silver or gold from your aimless conduct received by tradition from your fathers, but with the precious blood of Christ, as of a lamb without blemish and without spot." He is waking us up here in this passage, and he is calling us into understanding something. You know, so many times when the topic of mercy comes up, or the topic of obeying the gospel comes up, or so many different topics like that, I have to remind myself that I fall short of the glory of God. I do every day. No question about it, I need Jesus every single day. But at the same time, I cannot ignore passages like what we just read, a call to be holy. I can't just say, well, I can't be perfect, so why even try? No, we are expected in this family, just like a good father, an earthly father would say, in this family we don't do those things. In this family we don't embarrass our parents. In this family we make sure the yard looks right, or whatever the dad might say. In this family, this is what we do. And it's similar to that. God saying to us, be holy, for I am holy. And you look at that and you think, wow, what a daunting task. That's scary. As holy as you? Yes, you're going to fall short. I'll take care of when you fall short. But your standard is perfection. That's your goal. That's your aim. And in this world, we have a lot of temptation and distraction that would want to take us away from that. And sometimes things can come up to where someone in the world might say, no, that's not, the Bible doesn't say anything about that. Sometimes they might bring it up when it comes to marijuana. But you know your scriptures. You know what God has commanded. You know the reason why, even though you don't see the word marijuana in the Bible, you know the Lord doesn't want you involved in such a thing. And the same is true with gambling. It's interesting to a lot of people, and they want to use that as a crutch to say, well, how is it that you can tell me that God is against gambling when you don't have a Bible verse for it? Well, in fact, we do, and we'll be looking at those. But they think there's not. In 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, we're told to test all things. Hold fast to what is good. Abstain from every form of evil. That's what we're commended. We have to make sure that we're thinking soberly. We're girding up the loins, right? As Peter says, we are making sure that we're putting on our big boy pants and we're thinking about this. We're not going to be silly kids and pretend, oh, I didn't know, I didn't know. No, we don't have permission to do that. We're held accountable. We must gird up the loins of our mind and be sober and test all things. Really look at what we're doing. And so the question, is gambling really a sin? Well, ask yourself this question: what is gambling? What is it? Well, the dictionary, Merriam-Webster online dictionary, defines gambling as 1, to play a game for money or property, to bet on an uncertain outcome, to stake something on a contingency, to take a chance. And for a moment, I want you to see that in that very first part of the definition, it says to play. And this is where sometimes folks can get lost. Even Christians can get lost because you're just playing, and it makes play so much more fun. And you might be thinking, oh, it's just only a game, and a lot of times it can have this type of a funny way of looking at it, and seems harmless, and you can just say, well, it's only a game. I want you to know that lately, if you will, the gambling community has raised the stakes. When I first became a Christian, wasn't that long ago, in Missouri, there was a big fight in politics about having a casino there in St. Louis, Missouri. And many people fought and fought and fought. No, you can't do that. No, you can't do it. And they found a loophole, an old loophole that you could have it if it was on a boat in the river. That's the way they got around the law. And they got around the law, and they had it, even though the boat they made in St. Charles, Missouri, just on the side of St. Louis, even though that boat wasn't moving, it was permanently docked in St. Charles, it was technically on the water. And so they could have their gambling boat. Back then it was a major deal, and we watched the neighborhood change very, very quickly. We saw places where you could pawn, a lot more prevalent there in the neighborhood. We saw where you could cash your checks. There was a lot more businesses popping up that's somehow wasn't there, was no need for it before. But quick cash became so important around where that casino was. That's what happens in that environment. But now it's even worse. Now people, even kids, can gamble with their phone. I'm not saying gamble like, I don't know who's got the better phone. I mean, use your phone to gamble. And gambling apps spent $433 million on advertising last year. I want to be sure we're all on the same page here. Places like DraftKings and FanDuel and many others, they spent $433 million of their own money to get people to gamble. That's their advertising budget for 1 year. They're spending that money to talk people into getting the app and betting. If they're spending $433 million just in 2024, why would they do that? Well, between 2018 and 2023, people were using these to gamble $300 billion. So, before, there was an argument about whether it was right or not right in the state of Missouri, and then they found a way to sneakily get in there. But that's gone now. That's forget about that argument. That's over. Because now you can gamble right on your phone. And the leagues that used to pretend that they were against gambling, you remember how Major League Baseball we don't even want to talk to Pete Rose anymore. They're advertising and they're in cahoots with these gambling apps. They're taking in millions and millions and millions of dollars, making it easier and easier and easier to gamble. And just a couple more things about that. In the state of Oregon, for example, last year, there was an article that showed the top 4 sports to gamble on. You might expect basketball, football, even baseball. But you see number 4? Table tennis. That's right. Ping pong. Ping pong came in 4th. It's funny, right? If it wasn't so sad, we could really laugh a long time. But that's number 4. See, the thing about ping pong is it can happen anytime, anywhere in the world. These apps that have gambling, you'll be able to watch a ping pong game with 2 people you've never heard of playing ping pong. You got a judge right here, you got a scoreboard. Why, that's a sport. And you can just place a bet on who knows who, because you're addicted to it, because you can't stop, because it's releasing the chemicals in your mind and where you just don't want to stop betting. And in the middle of the night, and you wake up, you can't sleep, and you turn that on and you think, what can I bet on now? That's number 4 in Oregon. That is how sad it's getting, how out of control it's getting. Now, I doubt any of us are doing it, but your neighbors are. Watch out for your grandkids. Watch out for anybody who might be using this, because it gets worse and worse and worse. In states that allow gaming apps, so far not all 50 states allow this. Sadly, Florida does. My beloved Missouri does. In states that allow gambling apps, bankruptcies have risen by 28%. People lose it all. It's so easy. It's right there all the time. The most addictive thing we have in our lives right now, our phones, has gambling on it. And it's getting worse. You know, it used to be really fun to watch the Super Bowl. And a championship team would be really tense throughout that whole season. We're going to find a way to win. The other team's trying to win. We're going to make sure we win. And I don't want any messing around. I want you guys in on the curfew. And we're going to work hard. We're going to work even harder than the other team. Work, 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 work. And then at the end of the Super Bowl, when your team wins, what'll happen was the players would sneak up to the coach to get behind him. And what would they do? They'd pour that Gatorade on him. I used to love to see that, because the coach would say, I know it's coming, I know it's coming. And then it wouldn't come, and then it would, and then it would, and finally they'd get him. Douse him with Gatorade. Well, guess what? You can bet on your phone what color the Gatorade is. That's a fact. Yeah. Since 2019. That's one of the things you can bet. That's just one. We could be here all night, folks. Of all the things you can bet on, and that's what's making it worse and worse. You don't just bet on who's going to win. You don't. I'm a Cardinal fan. I'm gonna bet that the Cardinals win. That's what Pete Rose always used to say. I only bet on my team to win. That's the devil. That's the way he gets you. Because on FanDuel, DraftKings, you don't just bet on your team to win. You bet on how many fumbles this player is going to have, or how many three-point shots this other player is going to shoot, how many they're going to miss. Anything. You can bet on anything. And just like that. It's a heyday for the devil. Because it's just so easy. And it starts out as innocent as just a game. It's just a game. You know, a survey of Gamblers Anonymous showed that 48% had considered suicide. Wow. And 13% had attempted it. It is not only a game. Nobody wants to die after a game of Yahtzee. That's a game. The minute that you play Randall or not, I don't know. But most people, when you play a game, you laugh. Maybe you yell a little bit, but it's nothing like losing your mortgage. It's nothing like any other terrible result. When you're on a roll, you got to let it ride, and then suddenly it's all gone. What do we say about casinos? The house always wins. But there's always one guy. He said, oh no, I got a system. And that's the guy who's in great, great trouble. Let's look at gambling. Let's break it down. It involves chance. We all agree about that. It involves people wanting something of value. Let's say it's a game of cards. There's a pot. You ante up, and then you keep betting, and there's the pot. You want to win that. People wanting something of value. Winners that take what's valuable from losers. And losers that lose things of value. That's gambling. Now, you can have chance in life. That usually comes up in the question, and I want you to be ready for that when you're talking to your loved ones. There's non-gambling with chance, of course. Like farming. Farmer puts out a crop. He's not sure if it's going to bring in a very good crop. He's going to go out there and do his best. He's going to try everything he can to get the best crop, but you never know. There's chance involved, but that's not gambling. You see, you want every farm. We want everybody to have a good year. What about flying an airplane or driving a car? Are you taking a chance with your life there, especially in this state? Wow. Yeah, you're really taking a chance. Here lately, a lot of news stories about airplanes too. It's kind of getting a little weird. But that's not gambling, because you want all the planes to stay in the air and land correctly. You don't want any wrecks on Highway 4. Yeah, you're taking a chance, but you hope that everybody gets to go home. That's not gambling. What about investing in the stock market? What would be 401k? Well, how many nights do you lay awake thinking you sure hope so-and-so, your buddy's stocks go down? You hope yours go up, and your other, the other guy at the factory that you work at, or the whatever business that you have, your coworker, ooh, I hope they lose this year so I can win. No. You want this. You want, what is that? The tide raises all ships. That's what you want, everybody to win. That's not gambling. Don't let somebody tell you that you're a gambler when you're not. No. You know what gambling is. So is gambling really a sin? When you gamble, you will either have covetousness, or envy, or lust. Many times in gambling, you'll have all three. Never during gambling do you have neither of these three sins. It's not gambling without that. You see that you're playing a poker game, and you covet that pot. You don't want it to go to this guy or to that guy. You want that. And when someone else wins, you envy that winner. You're playing the lottery, you go to the corner store and you get a lottery ticket, and you look at it and you see some other guy, oh, you want to be that guy, don't you? You want to be the one that won millions. That's called envy. You're lusting after that pot of money. That's gambling. What does the Bible say about covetousness, envy, and lust? You know what it says. It's not good. It's not right. It's not funny. It's not cute. James chapter 3, verse 15. If you have bitter envy and self-seeking in your hearts, do not boast and lie against the truth. I love the way he put that. Let's not kid ourselves here. You got envy and self-seeking in your hearts. You're gambling for money, for something valuable. Sometimes people will throw a valuable ring in the pot. Maybe a gift watch that they got. Who knows what? And you want that. You're self-seeking. It does not get stronger than it does in gambling. The wisdom, this wisdom, does not descend from above, but is earthly, sensual, demonic. For where envy and self-seeking exist, confusion and every evil thing are there. Think about that and think about gambling. In Romans chapter 1 verse 28 it says, and even as they did not like to retain God in their knowledge, God gave them over to a debased mind, to do those things which are not fitting, being filled with all unrighteousness, sexual immorality, wickedness, covetousness, maliciousness, full of envy, murder, strife, deceit, evil-mindedness. They are whisperers, backbiters, haters of God, violent, proud, boasters, inventors of evil things, disobedient to parents, undiscerning, untrustworthy, unloving, unforgiving, unmerciful. You see that list of ugliness? It involves gambling. Wait a minute, I don't see the word gambling in there. You do see the word covetous, don't you? You see the word full of envy, don't you? You see deceit, don't you? There's no question gambling is on that list. You don't want to be involved with anything on this list. No. These are the things you don't. This is the opposite of be ye holy for I am holy. It's crystal clear to good Bible students like this room, but you got to help those on the outside. And they say, hey, gambling's not in the Bible. You tell them covetousness is, envy is, self-seeking is. Romans chapter 1 continued. It says, who, knowing the righteous judgment of God, that those who practice such things are deserving of death, not only do the same, but also approve of those who practice them. Those who practice such things are deserving of death. That is as strong a language as it gets. Those who do what things? Covetousness, envy, lusting, evil desires. Same thing when you read about it in Romans chapter 13. Same thing, the type of thing that you read about in 1 Corinthians chapter 5 and verse 11. 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verses 9 through 11. Also in James chapter 4, verses 1 through 5. Let's go to James. James chapter 4. James says, where do wars and fights come from among you? Do they not come from your desires for pleasure that war in your members? You lust and do not have. You murder and covet and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet you do not have because you do not ask. You ask and you do not receive because you ask amiss, that you may spend it on your pleasures. Adulterers and adulteresses, do you not know that friendship with the world is enmity with God? Whoever therefore wants to be a friend of the world makes himself an enemy of God. And that's exactly what pro teams have done. I know they're not Christians, they're a business, but it's just sad to see what they've done. You can see when you watch a sporting event on television. They'll have the gambling apps like brought to you by FanDuel. Or these statistics are brought to you by DraftKings. They used to say, oh, we don't want anything to do with it. We don't want anybody to even imagine that we're okay with gambling. And now they're one with gambling. What does that do to the viewer? What does that do to the little viewer that you've got to help? You've got to say, see that, Johnny? You see that? That's evil. Because it looks right. They make it look legitimate. And it's degenerate. It's friends with the world. In 1 John 2, verse 15, do not love the world or the things in the world. If anyone loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. And the world is passing away, and the lust of it. But he who does the will of God abides forever. It's plain to see. And it's a good example, by the way, when we look at our Bibles and we see that we're called to be holy because our Father is holy. That's the way we are in this family. Our goal is holiness, even as He is holy. And somebody says to you, gambling's not that big a deal. You can't show me a scripture that says, thou shalt not gamble. Yes, you can. You show them right where it says not to be involved in covetous behavior, envy, or the like. Can a Christian participate in the lottery just for fun? Well, Paul writes, this you know, that no fornicator, unclean person, nor covetous man, who is an idolater, has any inheritance in the kingdom of Christ and God. Let no one deceive you with empty words. For because of these things, the wrath of God comes upon the sons of disobedience. Therefore, do not be partakers with them. Say it's just for fun. God doesn't see it that way. He does not want you being partakers with them. Say, well, I was doing it, I was on the app because my buddies were, and even when I win, I give that money away to them. I'm not trying to win. You're a partaker. And it needs to stop. What is wrong with going to the casino just for the food? I've heard people say that. I just go there for the buffet. You can't get a better deal on a buffet than at a casino. And that's probably true as far as the food for the money's sake. What's wrong with it? Well, what's right about it? That's a better question. What's wrong with it? Let's further answer the question with another question. Why would a Christian be anywhere that will cause a new convert or a potential convert to stumble? 1 Corinthians chapter 8, verse 13, therefore, if food makes my brother stumble, I will never again eat meat, lest I make my brother stumble. We don't want to be partakers of it at all. And it's getting worse. That's why I'm doing the sermon tonight. Guys, it's getting worse. It's getting easier and easier and easier to sin. So in summary, just so you know, that you can remember, gambling involves chance. So do a lot of things, but gambling involves chance and people wanting something of value, winners that take from losers, losers that lose things of value, and it involves envy, coveting, lusting for evil things. What are we supposed to do? We're supposed to test all things. Hold fast to what is good and abstain from every form of evil. That's what the Lord expects His children to do. That's what the Lord is expecting all of us to do, and all of us to encourage everyone else, to let them know that this is a lie of the devil, that it is not just for fun. It is not wholesome. It is not legitimate. That it is, in fact, the devil's work. And you and I, we're called to be holy. We don't want to take a chance on whether or not the Lord is pleased with us. He's approved of us. We don't want to take that chance. Why would we gamble our eternal life? For that matter, of course, we would gamble our eternal life. We're thinking, I'm going to obey the gospel tomorrow. We don't want to do that either. We want to make sure that we're ready for the Lord's return. So I ask everyone here, are you ready for the Lord's return? We're going to sing a song, encourage one another. And if you're able to stand, now's the time to stand and sing.